Thank you very much, Muluku Moloto, there with that update. A lot of action taking place there in the City Council in Johannesburg. Phalatse, as we've heard, is facing yet another motion of no confidence. Now, Mapaseka Muroa is joining us now with some analysis. She said that a strategic move by the ANC would be to install an EFF mayor in Johannesburg if they want to secure Ekurhuleni. Phalatse was reinstated, let's remind you, as Joburg mayor after the initial motion she lost was declared unlawful in court. Muroa is joining me now with her analysis. Mapaseka, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you for your time. Interesting times indeed. It's exactly a year since Phalatse took over as mayor after the local government elections last year, and now she's faced a number of motions of no confidence. And the ANC currently, with minority parties, those who support its stance, and the EFF look like they're busy horse trading about who should be the replacement of Phalatse if the next motion of no confidence is successful. Interesting times, some would say.
Interesting times indeed, Braden. There is, of course, some horse trading. We know that there are discussions behind the scenes happening, particularly with the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Fighters. Those particular talks seem to have collapsed in Ekurhuleni. Now, you'll remember that Zwandile Masina, as well as the regional leadership in Ekurhuleni, went rogue in that they didn't follow the directions of the PEC of the African National Congress when they were told to wait in terms of the motion of no confidence. So they fielded it prematurely without having a deal, or rather an agreement with their coalition partners. So we are seeing this back and forth with these political parties, and we're all wondering what's going to happen in Johannesburg, particularly tomorrow. So I think that will be informed by whether or not the ANC, the EFF, and the other. This is very crucial, because at the end of the day, the EFF did say, look, what happened in Ekurhuleni has a ripple effect in Johannesburg, which means that they actually might not vote with the ANC in this instance. But I think, Braden, this was actually a gift for the African National Congress. Because if you look at the city of Ekurhuleni, it's actually the one metro that has the capacity to create a lot of employment because of its industrial power. So you look at a political party like the EFF, right? And they believe in state-led economic development, and they believe in negotiation, beneficiation. So then in performing, particularly because it's 2 years between 2024, this very crucial election, if they actually perform the city of Ekurhuleni, that detrimental for the African National Congress, particularly because the growth of the EFF correlates with the decline of the African National Congress. So it would be beneficial for the African National Congress to actually field an EFF mayor in the city of Johannesburg, because the EFF is a political party that's Pan-Africanist, that has a footprint on the African continent. So it would be tricky, and it would be interesting to see it govern a city that has issues, particularly with immigration, undocumented immigrants, and how they'll be able to juggle that.
That's a very interesting point. I never saw it like that. But now that you're saying it, it's very interesting. But we'll have to see and wait. But coalition governments, multi-party coalition governments at the best of times, even in well-established democracies older than ours, multi-party democracies, that is, it's not easy. It's not easy, literally, who you horse trade with and what is the benefit. I guess the ANC will have to be thinking about 2024 to say what serves us best today ahead of 2024.
Absolutely, they need to think that way. But it seems to some extent the African National Congress isn't thinking in that instance, Braden. The regional leadership in Ekurhuleni said that they would not allow another political party to actually lead them. They would not subject the African National Congress to the administration of another political party. Now, Dr. Fikile Mbalula did repeat this and say, look, we only go in coalition where we are a majority. So this is going into those conversations with the idea that their particular candidate is the one that is going to be fielded and is the one that is going to govern. But coalitions require compromise, Braden. You'll remember in Nelson Mandela Bay that a political party with one seat was able to govern that particular municipality. So it does require a lot of compromise, but also the constituency. The constituency need to understand that no particular political party was given that 50% plus one. So there might be political parties that they don't agree with on an ideological level. However, in terms of the functionality, in terms of the stability of that particular metro or municipality, those political parties actually need to find each other and work together for the interest of the people.
Yeah, it looks like the parties, like the governing party, is stuck on that majority shall rule kind of thing, on the majoritarian type of democracy, that I've got the numbers. Even if I don't have 50%, I've still got a large enough slice to call the shots. But as you are saying, coalition governments require more maturity and more compromise in terms of that, even being willing to step back. But we'll see what in Joburg will happen. We don't know what's likely to happen, but the minority parties, besides the EFF in the council here, seem to hold the sway, as we saw what happened a few weeks ago, where they pushed very hard for Phalatse to be ousted.
Absolutely. They seem to have some sway, but they don't have the numbers, Braden, at the end of the day. So these political parties, like I said, they need to find each other. So the way they were able to field that motion of no confidence, even though it was illegal, is because of the numbers that came together, the EFF, the ANC, and those minority political parties. So at the end of the day, they do need to ensure that across the board, there is an understanding of what exactly they are going to do. I mean, flying in blind. I heard the minority saying, hey, look, if the African National Congress doesn't field their own mayoral candidate, we too are capable of being mayors and will field our own candidate. So at the end of the day, they need to find each other and they need to ensure that they are on the same page so that those numbers do reflect. You can't go in flying blind.
Very quickly, as we conclude, I have to ask you this. We saw what happened in those 2 weeks when there was the hullabaloo with Phalatse being out and taking the matter to court. No services were delivered. Very little service were delivered, and some projects were at a standstill. So the residents of Joburg are not benefiting from these, what I regard as internal political power squabbles inside the council for who should run the city council. I mean, the residents are really getting the short end of the stick here.
Absolutely, Braden. It's detrimental for the people on the ground who are not receiving these services that they should. But this is one of those instances where two things can be true. On the one hand, it is political horse trading. It's power play. On the other hand, I believe that, as in the city of Ekurhuleni, there have been allegations, particularly involving the Democratic Alliance, that they've ignored predominantly black areas. And this is an allegation that isn't new. It's from, the time of Ntata Herman Mashaba, he himself saying that. We saw that with the former mayor of Cape Town, Auntie Patty, and we saw it with other councillors in Cape Town, like Brett Herron. So we've seen these allegations, and these are two competing narratives and things that exist. So that both things can be true. But at the end of the day, particularly with the finances of Johannesburg, I think what we need to realize, whether it's on a local level, a provincial level, a national level, is that government can no longer function or even thrive without these governments realizing that they need to establish a mechanism of creating economic access and economic development. So how do they ensure that they create income instead of relying on these grants, instead of relying on taxes, instead of relying on rates from the city? They really need to think beyond grants and really need to think about how they can ensure that they create income